Rules, confirmations, and public elections agenda. We have 5 members present. That's a quorum. So let's get rolling. Is Councilmember Allen here? Do we have a letter? We do. Okay. RS 2023-2004 confirms the appointment of the members of the Tax Incentive and Abatement Study and Formulating Committee established per ordinance BL 2022-1415 and 2022-1527. A motion, please.
Second.
Any discussion? We have a letter asking for approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. You have a working pen. This thing is
I do.
dead.
There's 4 different colors, so pick.
Ooh. You can color code these.
That's what I like to do.
Thanks. RS 2023-2005, Rosenberg, states the Metropolitan Council's opposition to HB 48, SB 87, and other legislation that makes substantial changes to governance in Nashville, Davidson County without the assent of Davidson County voters. Motion, please.
I'd like to move for a 1-meeting deferral.
Second.
Okay. Would you like to speak on the deferral?
I just think that because we just heard the House hearing today, and then there was a press conference that included some of our council members after that, and everyone hasn't gotten a chance to hear all these different sides of the issue, I'd like to move for a 1-meeting deferral so that we can all have the same information before we're discussing this.
So you're concerned people aren't aware of what this legislation does?
I'm concerned they haven't heard all of the opinions yet.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, then I will say that I think that I know for a fact that there are legislators on the Hill pushing this legislation who are claiming that council members want this, and that it's important that we go on the record before this goes any further. I know that there are some folks who don't want to be on the record for this because they want the state to overrule us, but I think it's important that we make our opinions known on this. And before this bill moves any further, it's important that we as a council go on the record as saying we want them to do this or we don't want them to do this. So I would ask for a vote against the deferral. Any other discussion? Okay.
Can I ask a question of the sponsor?
Sure.
Is it of your opinion that this particular resolution would be, would it turn down the fire any, or would it intensify it? Because right now it seems like on the Hill the world is on fire against Metro Council, but my fear is that it would further the division as opposed to helping it. They seem pretty well determined to do what they're going to do, and I'm not sure that we can prevent it with a resolution.
I agree that we probably can't prevent it, but I think it's important that we as a council say that we believe that the people of Nashville should be making these governance decisions, and that anybody on the Hill who's suggesting that the council wants this is probably misrepresenting our position. Or not. I don't think that silence on our part is a good response to the fire that's going on up there. I also acknowledge that they're going to do what they're going to do. And I hope that we can either say that we're for this or we're not for what they're doing.
How would a deferral impact this, in your opinion, if we defer it?
In the next 2 weeks, this is going to be before House Finance and probably Senate government, local and state government committee. So that is 2 more committees, 2 more hurdles that this will clear without us speaking up. And I would suggest that us saying that we don't want to say we're against what they're doing will be taken by them as saying that we're for what they're doing. So I believe voting for deferral is really saying that we want them to do what they're doing.
I appreciate that. I disagree with that because I'm supportive of the sentiment here in the resolution, but I fear that it would further fan the flames.
Us saying we don't want them to do this is going to fan the flames?
I think so. Because I think we're further poking at them, basically, if we pass it. That's where I come from on it, and I favor the deferral.
Okay. My position is that we're getting attacked, and it's okay to say, please don't attack us, instead of just curling up in a ball.
May I ask a question?
Please.
I appreciate your comments. I guess looking at this, it looks like Councilwoman Murphy is a co-sponsor. Did she sign on as her committee chair role, or because?
That is not as a co-sponsor. If you notice, next to every piece of legislation, it says Rosenberg Murphy.
Yeah. I didn't know she actually signed on as chair of rules to, other than, you know what I mean? Like
She
if
did
she
not.
wanted, okay, it's
I'd
just
say, like,
in her
every
chair.
piece of legislation on here will list us.
Yes.
It would say Murphy if she were the one
And that
here,
was kind of my
but
question, is if she was signed on because of her being chair, or just because she agrees
No, I
with the
did not
sentiment?
ask anyone to sign on.
Okay, because I know she usually has very strong opinions about how we message the state, and so, of course, she's not here to speak to that, but
Yeah.
thank you for your answer.
Any other discussion? All in favor of deferral?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Let's say no.
No. Deferred. That just blows my mind sometimes. RS 2023-2006 by Syracuse honors Colonel Elmer V. Craig and Sergeant Johnny W. Craig of the Tennessee Highway Patrol and supports the memorial designation on U.S. Highway 70, 11 and Pike in their memory. Councilmember Syracuse is not here, and I don't see a letter.
I can sign on as a co-sponsor.
Great. Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? RS 2023-2007, Stiles, Evans, Syracuse, and others recognizes Pastor Randall Cordell's 30 years of service at Lakeshore Christian Church.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 2023-2008, Roten, Syracuse, Evans, and Hager honors the legacy of John A. Hobbs, the Hobbs family, and John A.'s restaurant.
So moved.
Second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? RS 2023-2009, Allen and Withers. We have a letter recognizes the team representing Nashville in 2023 Gov Games in Dubai.
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Late items. Councilmember Taylor, a resolution honoring the TSU Aristocrat of Bands on its historic wins at the 65th Annual Grammy Awards. We're discussing the emergency filing and also voting on the content. Councilmember Taylor.
Thank you. It's the very first time a marching band has ever won a Grammy, and they won 2 on Sunday. That's why it's late filed, and so hopefully we can get that in front of us to celebrate and recognize the students at Tennessee State University on their achievements.
Great. Any problem with the emergency nature?
Nope.
All right, on to the content.
I just want to add to Councilmember, thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak. But it is a historic opportunity to let these children know and understand that we celebrate them, that they have made some magnificent accomplishments in all that they've done. We will also be participating in a parade to celebrate them on Friday, this coming Friday the 10th at noon, and we're asking the public to come out and share and let them know how much we love, appreciate them, and how proud we are of them. The MNPD are going to be partnering as well. Deputy Chief Dwayne Green is a former drum major, and you've got several members that have been a part of the AOB, and it's just going to be a community thing, and all of Nashville is invited to attend and participate.
Great, thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We got 2 more Taylors.
My apologies.
A late ordinance, currently unnumbered, changes 3.32 acres from R6 to SP zoning for property located at 1833 at Temple Boulevard to permit a mixed-use development, and its companion bill that will, materials restrictions. Councilmember?
Thank you. I didn't get this timely filed, as you can see. We've worked really hard in the community to get this moving forward. And so I wanted to make a few tweaks and didn't give me a chance to timely file it. So asking for this to move forward so we can have the public hearing in March as the community has been prepared to do so in our community meetings.
Great, and we can't do the public hearing in March if we put this off to next meeting, right?
That
Because
is
of notice
absolutely
requirements. Okay, anybody have an issue?
If I could ask a quick question, what is the what is the issue related to moving it in March as opposed to just going through the regular motion?
So continuing with the timeline, this has been a long conversation with the community. And so continue with the timeline that we've set with them to prepare them to be in places. So for one of the reasons is in our last meeting a few weeks ago, we said that the public hearing for this will be on the first Tuesday in March. And if we have to bump that back, I'm not sure if that helps with the timeline of the community.
Has the public hearing already been had at the Planning Commission?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns, issues? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Our BL 2023-1685, Rosenberg and Murphy and Rosenberg really readopts the code of the Metro government prepared by the Municipal Code Corporation, including supplemental and replacement pages thereof and containing certain ordinances of a general and permanent nature enacted on or before August 17th, 2022.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. All right, that's it for bills and resolutions. We are on to elections and confirmations, starting with the Community Oversight Board. We have an election to fill 2 seats nominated by petition or community organization. We're going to ask each of our 7 nominees to each speak to, introduce yourselves however you see fit. Tell us why you'd like to serve, what you see as the issues that need to be solved in the community, and answer any questions and appreciate it. We as a body at the end of the 7 are just going to vote on whether everybody meets the legal qualifications or not, and the big action will be in the big room. We start with Ms. Michelle Flynn. Hi. Would you mind, we'll slide that chair around if you wouldn't mind having a seat over there. Thanks, Councilmember.
Hi.
Hi, thanks for being here.
Yes, thank you.
Would you mind talking a little bit about those things?
Sure. Yes. Well, you know, when the Community Oversight Board was first spoken of in the community, I was very happy that that was going to come forward, and worked pretty hard to go ahead and secure signatures on the petitions to get it on the ballot, and then also to turn people out to go ahead and vote for it, and have, follow the Community Oversight Board from a distance, obviously, meetings and such, and as it has evolved. At the time I was working, so it wasn't really, my life was not such, although I'd been asked to go ahead and throw my name in the ring, I was like, there's plenty of other people, it's not something particularly, but I know last time around when they were asking for nominations, people didn't step forward, and so then you had to do another round and get some people to apply, which was great. So I was asked by a couple of people to go ahead and put my name in the ring now. I'm retired. I've done a bunch of things with nonprofits, as you see. I've worked in the city. I've worked, I worked with the ACLU doing a racial profiling project in Jackson. I've worked on issues around linking former felons to the right to vote. You know, I work for legal aid, so I've done most of my, well, all of my life. It's been working with nonprofit organizations. I'm not going to say to you that I'm the best person. In fact, when I saw that there were 7 people that had put their names in the ring, I asked a couple of people who had encouraged me to put my name in. I was like, should I withdraw my name? Because it's great that there are so many really wonderful people that have put themselves forward. But I was asked to go ahead and keep my name in because I was suggested that I may have some skills that the board could use. And I think particularly, you may know Phyllis Hedrith, I'm going to say her name incorrectly, who oversaw the Lipscomb's Hildreth, Hildreth, who oversaw the Lipscomb's mediation program. I worked at the Nashville Conflict Resolution Center for 5 years. When I came, they only had one program. I helped expand the programs in the city. I did a lot of work with volunteers, and yeah, and I think my mediation skills is something I think folks thought might be helpful on the Community Oversight Board. I know that now the Community Oversight Board is a partnership with NCRC, where there might be issues coming up where a mediation between someone on the force and someone in the community could be helpful to come to some kind of restitution. I'm not talking financial, I'm talking to actually personal, where there's a bit of a a bit maybe deeper understanding that is reached between people. So I think those skills are skills that may be helpful. I've also written materials, I've done research, so you can sort of see in my resume kind of some of the skills that have been brought forward that I think people might be happy about. I also spoke pretty honestly in my resume about my interaction with the police department. I was raped in my early 20s in Atlanta, Georgia, and the police department there was incredible. I mean, I have to say, the person was prosecuted and was convicted because of really good police work. So I grew up, as you saw, next to a chief of police. I've had interactions with the police department that I think because of my color and because I'm a woman, oftentimes have been positive. But I also in my work with people, particularly focused on people with limited resources, people of color, people who are refugees, immigrants, that have a really strong commitment to social justice. And so I think that's why people have asked me to step forward. I also have 2 grandchildren. I'm not sure, I'm getting emotional. One is 12 years old, beautiful young gal in LA. I've never worried about her waking up one morning and having an interaction with the police that would be negative, right? But my great nephew, he is biracial, and I do worry about him. I worry about him all the time. So I would say to you, if you don't choose me, I've been involved, I will continue to be involved. It's something that is near and dear to my heart. Did I answer your question?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, you're so welcome.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Scott Solfridge. Hi.
So now,
Please have a seat. Thanks for being here. Would you mind talking a little bit about the same?
I don't think I can talk as much and fill you in as much as she did, but I'm a retired police officer. I came on in 1985, and I worked in many different areas. I was started off patrol, went to auto theft, directed patrol, crime suppression unit. I ended up working homicides for the last 6 or 7 years before I retired in 2011. And I mean, I wish I could tell you a lot more that I've done, but I've worked in the police department my whole life. And after I left the police department, I've just followed some hobbies. I race, build cars. I'm a pilot. I'm a licensed pilot. I'm a fair person. I mean, Mark knows me. And officers asked me when I was on the police department to represent them at some hearings, like administrative hearings. What are they called? Do you remember, Mark? You know what I'm talking about, where they're up for a suspension? And some of them I turned down because I didn't think they'd done the right thing. And the ones that did, then I go speak for them. And I did that quite a few times. I guess people asked me because they knew that I would say what I thought, and people don't always like what I say, but I always say what I think. And I think the best advice I got after I got on the police department was after I went to auto theft. And a detective during an interview told me that you cannot learn anything when you're talking, that you have to be listening. And so I tried, when I was interviewing people, I try to stay as quiet as I can and let them talk, because you can learn more. You can't learn while you're talking, and he was right.
It's true.
But anyway, that's, if you have any questions, that's about it. I mean, I have 2 grandkids. Well, I have one, and one's gonna be here in a couple of weeks. And
Congratulations.
I had cancer 3 years ago, and the cancer didn't almost kill me, but the treatments did. But I'm cancer-free now, so I'm good.
Fantastic.
That's about it.
Any questions for Mr. Silfridge?
I have one. So, like the conversation we were having about the council being reduced in size, the legislature's also trying to eliminate community oversight boards. And so do you have any perspective on their effort to do that in the state?
I've never watched a COB meeting. They sent me a video the other day, but I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. I think it's got a place. I mean, I don't think they should do away with them at all. I think they have a great place. But I also do think that you need a couple of police officers on it. And the reason I think that is because we can answer questions that the board has, but that you wouldn't have to go anywhere. I know he knows a lot, and I've done everything. So I haven't been a supervisor, but I've done everything else. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you so much. Thank you. Is Lydia Youssef. It is Youssef, correct?
It is Yusuf, like Joseph. Yeah.
Okay.
Try to face y'all.
Welcome. Thank you for being here. Would you mind face whichever direction you like? Can you tell us a little bit, please?
So my name is Lydia Yusuf. I'm the current director and one of the founders of Al Mahabba Center in South Nashville. We serve Arabic-speaking immigrants. And as you know, Arabic is or may not know, Arabic is the 3rd most spoken language in the whole state. So we serve a lot of people, and in many ways we have ACT tutoring, diaper bank, etc. But my background is in Middle Eastern studies. So I went to Vanderbilt, and I graduated with a bachelor's degree in 2017, and I wrote my thesis on the history of the Coptic community here in Nashville, because it is very much overlooked community, because it is a working class community, and it's a community that works 60, 80 hours and dreams of home. It hasn't made it yet here. So that's a big reason why I started in Mahabba Center, is because I'm very big on, theory is one thing, but once you get on the ground, you need to start practicing what you're preaching. I then actually left in 2017 to do my master's at the University of Chicago, and I wrote my thesis on Coptic pilgrimage and that identity making between nation states. So again, very theoretical. And by the way, Coptic means Egyptian Christian, just in case sometimes people are not on the same page as me, so I forget to say that. And during that time, in May, I was kind of getting fed up with academia and getting fed up with the conversation around the Coptic community within academia. And at the same time, one of our community members who was ostracized out of our community, his father was an abuser in the household, and people somehow in our society had pinned that on him and his mother and his sister because they had worked to put him in jail, and that was seen as something negative, that his wife should have stood with him, and the kids should have advocated for their father, who was abusing drugs at the time as well, and was threatening to kill the mother. And it was just a very big moment for our community to see the religious hierarchy, because there is a lack of faith within the police system to actually know anything about Arabic-speaking culture and community members, to go to the police or to feel like there are safe infrastructures in Nashville to navigate the shelter system, navigate divorce. So she was kind of left by herself without her community to help her and without the state to help her either. And what ended up happening in May of 2019 is that he was with a couple of kids. One of the kids brought his father's gun and was showing him how to use it and shot him. And he passed away in front of his sister. So it was a very violent moment, and the repercussions in our community was that a lot of community members tried to cover this up because it was seen as nobody mentioned this, don't mention violence. And that's what happens in communities when you don't have safety measures, is then you have the people who are invested in harming and keeping community and gatekeeping community. They are going to make a concerted effort to hide everything up and say, blah, 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 we got it, we got a GoFundMe, we're gonna pay for the funeral. They never did any of that. We're gonna take care of the kids and the mother now, never did any of that. And it fell through, and at that point, I contacted a friend who was working here, and I told her we need to start a nonprofit because I'm sick of it. And that's how In Mahabba started. So it started at a moment of extreme violence and violent discourse in our community, and it's kind of been escalating. Even now, we're going into year 4, and it's still, the situation within our community and the police and safety within our community has not been resolved. So I come to this place as maybe another measure, knowing that, safety is not just about diaper banks and tutoring and academic excellence and community support, but also making sure that when we're putting in our taxes and we're paying for a state, that we're also kind of receiving those benefits and safety that we're expecting from our community members as well. So that's where I'm kind of coming in from. I also have just a lot of stories because my father's store is in South Nashville. So he has been in the middle of people shooting each other. When they contacted the cops and they said, we know exactly what's going on here in South Nashville, just like 2 miles away from the police precinct. We know who's doing it, we have it on camera, and no one listened to them. And my father could have been shot multiple times. So it's something that, it speaks very close to my heart because we're talking about life and death. We're talking about safety within a community. We're not blaming people. We're not sitting here trying to do an execution. We are trying to hold our community members accountable, and we are trying to have a safer Nashville so that we don't have to have funerals, so that we don't have to think about, I have to close the store before it turns dark because I could get shot today and not come home. I have a brother who's been pulled over multiple times and has had violent interactions with the police as well. So I know that's kind of a lot to put on the table on a Tuesday night, but it's something that speaks to me, and I know that is important, and it's not a vendetta for me, but I don't want my brother to die. I don't want someone who's like my brother to die because of something as simple like he was perhaps speeding, and we can talk this out. We can find a resolution. We can make our communities safer. So that's my stake and my claim here.
Thank you so much. Okay. Demarius LaShawn Witzel. Did I get your last name right?
Yes, you did. You did.
Thank you.
I go by Sean. So.
Okay. Thank you for being here. Would you mind talking a little bit about your interest, your background?
Yes. So, Sean Witzel, I just completed a 3-year term as a member of the COB. It was a great opportunity to serve the city of Nashville. I was very passionate about it because it was something that the people of Nashville said that they wanted, including myself. And I considered it to be a great honor. I feel like the 3 years flew by, and I want to just continue the work. So I'm here restating my commitment to the COB, and whether or not I'm voted on the board or not, I'm still going to be committed. I'll still be at the meetings. I'll still be participating as a citizen. So regardless of what happens after today, I'm still involved. But just a little bit about me. I come from an artist background. I have a theater company called the Destiny Theater Experience, and we focus on theatrical productions that highlight issues that are going on in the community, issues in the world. My last play was called The Sins of the City, and it focused on a city that was going through a lot of changes, and people were being left behind, people were being forgotten. And the lead character in the play is a council member, and we talk about the journey that he goes on. So I try to use my work as a way to reach people, to spark conversation, to spark awareness about the issues that I'm passionate about. I also work with a nonprofit called Southern Word, so I go into schools and we teach literacy through the powerful tool of spoken word. So we are teaching young people how to write and how to express themselves and how to talk about their lives and the world they want to see. In addition to that, I'm on the board of Rooftop Nashville, which provides resources for individuals in the city who are struggling with rent or mortgage. So we help get people back on their feet so they can continue to live and keep a roof over their head. Right now I'm going through a 3-year-long transformational justice training. And so this is my second year as a part of that training and transformative justice. And transformative justice is about accountability, it's about transparency, it's about reducing harm, and it's about how if harm is being done to someone or to a group of people, how can we fix or how can we move on beyond that point so that people, both sides, are healed and we can move on to a healthier life. And so I'm learning that so I can apply that to my family, so that I can apply that to my community, so I can apply that to the city. I also work with an organization, well, it's a program at Riverbend Prison. It's called SALT, a School for Alternative Learning and Transformation. So I go in to the prisons. I've done that for 8 years. So on Thursday nights, I go into the prison and I facilitate some type of workshop. A lot of it, and I'm a part of a team of people, so it isn't just me. But when I'm doing it, it's typically something arts driven because that's my background, but we also have done things like conflict resolution as well, and just all types of stuff. So it's one of those experiences where we're all teachers and we're all learners, and the insiders are teachers as well, and we sit in a circle, just like in restorative justice practices, and we all teach and learn from each other. And the last thing I'll say is that I got an opportunity through Southern Word, the nonprofit that I teach for, to lead workshops with the police cadets at the Mobile Diversity Day that they have. And I've done that 3 or 4 times. So opportunity to write with the cadets before they get started. And the idea is for them to always remember why they signed up for what they did, for what they're signing up for, to be a police officer. And for them to be able to look back at what they wrote years from now and remember what it is, why they signed up to do what they do. And most of the time they said they want to help people. That's kind of like the universal answer. They want to help people, they want to serve people, they want to serve their city. And so being able to have that time to kind of make a difference on the front end is something that I'm super passionate about as well. So I'm justice-minded, I'm fair, I'm passionate about the work that we do on the city, that we've done. I can't say we anymore because my time expired on the 31st, but the work that I've been able to do with my colleagues, and I want to continue that work, and I appreciate the opportunity to even put my name in the hat again.
Thank you. You sound incredibly busy. Any questions?
I have one quick one, if I might. I noticed you were nominated by the NOAA organization, Nashville Organized for Action and Hope. What can you tell us about how your experience with that organization has helped you with your service on COB?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So I've been active with NOAA for quite a while. I spent 2 years from right around the time that I joined the COB, I also became the Criminal Justice Task Force Chair of NOAA. And the one thing that I love about being a part of NOAA is that there's a lot of planning that goes into it. So it's an organization that's very strategic. I like the fact that we're always trying to have conversations. So we would have regular conversations with the mayor. We had regular conversations with Chief Drake, and then other council people. So it was all about getting in a room, talking things out, and seeing where things landed. And so I appreciate having that experience with NOAA, because I think that's super helpful being on the COB, because we're all in the room looking at these cases, and we're not always on the same page. Like sometimes we have a difference in opinions or a different perspective about things, but we're all committed to being there and working it out until we land somewhere that propels us forward.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just one. Sir, you're coming in. Thank you, Chair. I didn't wait for you to acknowledge. I'm sorry.
I didn't know she in my head.
You're coming in with experience. Just one thing to make it better.
One thing to make the COB better. Great question. I think there could be, I think that the relationship with the police department could be strengthened. I think that would help make the COB better. I think just continuing to build and strengthen that relationship, and to have even more community people come out to our meetings. And we've been going to, instead of being downtown all the time, we've been going out to the communities, and that's been great, because that's a way to encourage people to come. But I think if we had even more people show up to our meetings, which I know that's something that's being worked on constantly, I think that helps strengthen us, just to have that community voice in the room.
Any other questions? Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Mark Wynn. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, sir.
Would you mind, please?
Pardon?
Would you mind talking a little bit about your background?
I'll try to keep it short. And first of all, I've been sitting beside Deshaun for 2 years. I got to know a lot about him tonight. I kind of wish we'd gone out for a beer. It's a pretty impressive resume. And I know Scott as well. Scott and I work together at the police department. I'm coming off 2 years. And I'd be honest with you, when I got on this board, I was curious about what it meant, how it would work, what the culture would be like, how I could contribute to the board. And I've learned a lot. And I hope, too, that I've given a lot to the board from my experience. So let me give you just a couple of things in my resume. I'm looking up that Nashville hired me. Joe Casey hired me in '79 to work for the police department. And I worked through the agency as an officer, patrol sergeant. I worked in intelligence for a couple of years. I was a homicide detective for several years. I was a lieutenant, 15 years on the SWAT team. I helped start the Domestic Violence Division, which is a model program for the whole country. Trained at our academy for 15 years, trained at the Donaldson Academy for 30 years. And then somewhere about the middle of my career, Chief Casey introduced me to IACP, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, and said, I want you to represent us on the issue of violence against women. I said, absolutely, don't mind it. I'm a survivor. I taught at the academy. And I started working with IACP in '87, and I'm still working for them today. I'm a subject matter expert for IACP on anti-bias policing, on civil liability management for law enforcement managers, for officer-involved domestic and sexual violence, officer-involved sexual misconduct. So what IACP does with me is they'll send me to an agency. We just finished San Antonio. And we sort of dissect the agency, pull it apart, we look at policies, we interview officers, we talk to citizens, and we come up with a plan similar to what the Civil Rights Division at Justice will do when they do a patterns of practice investigation. And I'm also a consultant for them. I've been working with the Justice Department for probably 25 years now. I work for the Office of Victims of Crime. I do trainings and consulting for them, the Office of Violence Against Women, and the Civil Rights Division. And the last case I worked on was Chicago. I spent 2 years looking at the Chicago Police Department after Laquan McDonald was shot. They brought us in to look at all issues of violence within the Chicago Police Department. We did a finding, and now they're putting it in place in Chicago. I'm also a Fulbright specialist for the State Department. So they've sent me to about 16 countries so far, and the way they use me, the State Department, they have an emergency democracy that's trying to modify their courts, train their police, and I'll go in and talk about gender bias and how to take bias and discrimination out of their criminal justice system. We're actually working on a curriculum right now for the State Department. We're halfway through it. So anyway, so when I got on the board, I thought one of the things that I'd like to do for the board, and thanks to Director Pitcher and her staff, we've managed to do this. Got a proposal in now to do a comprehensive study on two things. One is trauma. Trauma-informed policing is emerging around the country. You cannot police without being trauma-informed for a lot of reasons. I saw trauma in police officers when I was a homicide detective. Scott saw it as well. We see that same trauma in average citizens who are rape victims, domestic violence victims, robbery victims. But you've got to have a buy-in from the entire police department on training to do trauma-informed interviews with victims. You have to understand the neurobiology of trauma. This proposal that the COB has put forward is going to help us, if the police department joins in with us, to take a look at an overall assessment of everybody from dispatchers all the way to the chief and understanding trauma. Now, the second thing that I hope that at the end of the day we accomplish, and that's sexual misconduct by police. Sexual misconduct by police, because I've investigated these cases when I was at the department, I prosecuted officers who committed these crimes, and I didn't work in internal affairs, I worked in the domestic violence division, is a big national issue. We don't know the numbers. We know the numbers are high. I mean, and every once in a while you'll see an incident that really brings it out to the open. I believe Smyrna was the last department. I think they lost 6 officers for sexual misconduct. Nashville doesn't have a sexual misconduct policy. There are 2 national policies that I use when I teach around the country, and I've introduced both of those to the staff at COB. They put that in the proposal for the police department, and I hope at the end of the day that they give it consideration, because we need one. Another thing that I teach for ICP is civil liability risk management. And I didn't see it this way until I got on the board, but somewhere about halfway through my time on the board, I realized that, because I've testified for Nashville as an expert witness in cases here in Nashville, that the COB is not just, guiding the police department through a, fair and balanced and unbiased work every day. It's really an insurance policy. I mean, when you look at Chicago, for example, I think their overall liability bill is like $325 million for police misconduct on all levels, from deadly force to sexual misconduct. The COB, in my mind, offers another layer of liability because it's an early warning system for things that manifest and turn into what we saw in Memphis. Now, we don't know all the story of Memphis yet, but I would bet there's a long history of misconduct that was missed by the police department or hidden by the police department. So anything that protects the city from liability is a good thing, and this is one of them. This is one of these things where if a city has an effective COB board that has a trusting relationship with the police department, I think you're adding another layer of liability, which is your responsibility as a council to make sure that you protect every dollar. And it's easier to sue a police department. It's harder to win. But when you don't have these safeguards in place, it just makes it easier for a litigant to go after the police department. So that's quick. I mean, I could go on and on. But and if you don't pick me, look, Nashville's been good to me. My wife and I started a nonprofit about 20 years ago, the Mary Parrish Center over in East Nashville. It's a therapeutic transitional housing program for domestic sexual violence victims. They've worked with around 8,000 or 9,000 victims so far. And I'm not on the board. I'm not involved in the operation of the program. It's named after my mother. Mary Parrish was my mother. And I helped, the city with the audit. We did a safety audit, community safety audit a couple of years ago that ended up giving us the energy to build a family safety center and the Gene Crow Center. So I've been lucky as far as Nashville goes. But considering I'm from Columbia, they ran me out of Columbia years ago. I was a newspaper reporter in Columbia, so yeah. My family, all my family are cops. Father, uncle, brother. I have nephews on duty. My sixth generation of cops is in Police Academy in Dallas. So they wouldn't talk to me for years while I was a newspaper reporter. And then when I got on Nashville, they started talking to me again.
Nice.
Anyway, so that's, again, and if I hadn't had a chance, I didn't see any of you after you voted for me last time. Thank you for trusting me, and thank you for putting me on this board. And I hope I've contributed to something that's got long-lasting impacts for the city and the police department.
Thank you so much for offering. Any questions? Councilmember?
Same question. You come in with experience, one thing to make it better.
Well, there's small things that aren't really small, but I agree with you, Sean. I think the view of the COB from the rank and file of the police department should not be as another internal affairs division. That's not what they are. This is the voice of the citizens, not the police department. So I think the relationship should be better. I think we should spend more time with the rank and file to tell them, because I've had officers call me, you know, after decisions were made and ask me my opinion. I told them how to appeal the decisions. I think the police department should see it as a good thing, as raising the standards. When you raise your standards for a police department, you lower your likelihood of any kind of misconduct. And the police department see it that way. I mean, I'm an active member of the FOP. I have been since '79. They probably don't feel the same way I do about certain things around officer misconduct, but they're doing their job. I got that. I understand it. But I think the rank and file needs to see the COB as not just some adversary out to get them, because they're not. These are good people. The director is a wonderful director. The staff are very good at what they do. The researchers are top notch. I've looked at police research for years. They do a really good job. And they give the chief another voice. They connect the citizens to the chief's office, in my mind. So, but that needs to improve. So that would be the one thing that I would improve.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
Shamika Holt. Hi.
Hey, how y'all?
Good. How you doing?
I'm good.
Good. Thanks for
Well,
being
my
here.
resume is not that extensive as everyone else. I'm not that experienced.
It's not a competition.
Just to let you know. But yes, my name is Shamika Holt, and I am a student at Tennessee State University. I'm a junior. Political science is my major, and I was nominated by Middle Tennessee National Action Network. And so I've been working with them for about 2 years, and I've been doing community organizing for about 4 or 5 years with nonprofit organizations. So social justice work is, I'm passionate about it, and the most important thing about coming to the Community Oversight Board is making sure that we bridge the divide with the community and the police department. That's really all.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Clemmy Greenlee.
She was approved.
I'm sorry, she was approved? Okay, thank you.
Excuse me.
All right, we're gonna vote on whether the 6 folks who did not withdraw and were here and just interviewed are qualified and meet the qualifications. All who agree with that, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody not? Thank you so much, and thanks y'all, and we'll see you in the other room.
Get your parking
Here's some
pass.
parking tickets here too. Just pick it up right here. Here's your parking. Y'all need parking. No, you're fine.
It was crowded.
You're fine.
Okay, we have appointments for 4 other boards. We have the Hospital Authority Board appointment of Mr. Craig Lesser for a term expiring on July 11th of this year. Mr. Lesser, hi.
Good evening.
How are you?
Chairman, council members, thanks for the opportunity to be here with you.
Thank you for being here. Would you mind talking a little bit about your interest in the board?
Sure. I'm probably the newest Nashvilleian. I've been here for 4 years. My wife and I came here on the path to retirement. We're here because Nancy, who grew up here, her mother lives a mile away, and we kind of help take care of her. And we've come, well, Nancy always loved Nashville. I took her away. And is that the G for Georgia or Green Bay?
It is.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs. That's all I need to hear.
Well, let me see if I can read that one. My background is essentially in economic development. I was Commissioner of Economic Development for the state of Georgia for a number of years. And over the years in economic development, what I've learned and what I talk about when I talk at schools with clients, et cetera, is about kind of 4 legs of economic development. That being the one we drive towards is prosperity, jobs for everybody. But there are 3 other legs that are very, very important, and that's a safe community, it's an educated community, and it's a healthy community. And the health of a community is very, very important to existing business people, to new business prospects. It's a critical part of the entirety of the economic development process. And it's one that, while I haven't spent much time on the health side, I do know that the hospital authority is not just about treating patients. There's a business aspect to it. And I hope I can contribute my history, my background, my experience to supporting the efforts of the hospital authority in growing the economic opportunities that we have here in Nashville.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Lesser?
I have one. And I'm sorry, where did you say in Georgia that you lived?
Atlanta.
Atlanta, okay. So do they have a safety net hospital in Atlanta?
Grady Hospital.
Grady, okay, thank you. And then my other question was, I saw recently the Nashville Business Journal had a story about the interest in building a new hospital location. And it talked about how the authority had had trouble meeting quorum for the last couple of meetings. And so do you anticipate that you will be able to attend all the meetings and participate that way?
Respectfully, I wouldn't be here if I didn't think I could
Okay.
contribute and be there.
All right, very good, thank you.
Thank you for that question.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions? Great. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you so much. See you next door. Metropolitan Development and Housing Authority appointment of Dr. Paulette Coleman for a term expiring on November 5th, 2028, District 35's finest. Hi.
Hey.
Thanks for being here. Would you
Glad
mind
to be
talking
here.
a little bit about your background and interests?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm trained as an urban planner. I have primarily worked, however, in university teaching as an adjunct professor and running nonprofit organizations. I have had active involvement in the Nashville community around issues of affordable housing for, I guess, since about 2015. Prior to that, I was involved in social justice issues, but also have served on the Metro Arts Commission, the Tennessee Arts Commission, and been a consultant to the NEA and several other arts commissions. I think MDHA is at a really good point at this time, and the reason for that is many people, including myself, critiqued it for placing too much emphasis on the D, the development aspect, and not the housing. And I think there has been a realization, as I tell people frequently, a blind person could see that some of the development districts are not blighted, yet we were spending a lot of time and energy on them and not being cognizant of the unanticipated consequences of that kind of growth and development. We now are focusing very strategically and with a laser-like focus on housing. It is complex and particularly affordable housing. Land is a finite commodity. Prices and cost of developing housing at any price point have just catapulted. They're astronomically, increased exponentially. The other point to make is, for a lot of reasons, there's not a broad embrace of the use of technology in accelerating the production and creation of housing. We've got to do two things: preserve existing housing as best we can, and then expedite the creation, development of new housing. And I think including technology more specifically is an integral part of that.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Coleman?
I have one question.
Sure.
So I was, so I'm the council appointee to the Homelessness Planning Council process with the 25 million that we allocated for housing. So I've had one meeting at MDHA where we went through and scored applications that I know will maybe in front of your board soon if they haven't been already. Anyway, my point is, I learned so much in that hour and a half of hearing all about all the funding layers and how it all weaves together. And so that, I guess it's not really a question as much as a request that for whatever the next council body looks like, if there's more of an opportunity for MDHA to engage the council to teach us more about that, because I've kind of learned by accident, and then being in that group has really helped me learn a lot more. And so if you can bring that back to the board.
I think that's a very important comment. And one of the things that I was fortunate enough to do in several different occasions, I didn't know that when the council came on board, there were these orientations and kind of all day long. I participated at one at Vanderbilt, I guess, a few years ago, and I was doing affordable housing, and then one a long, long time ago at another part of Vanderbilt around, We Will Be Happy, our executive director is here, and integrating MDHA, because there is a great wealth of knowledge there. We will be more than happy to, construct opportunities to interface with the council more and find out what kinds of things you want to learn more about. We will be very happy to do that. I'm glad you brought up homelessness, because while that is not part of the D and the H, it is a continuum. And unless we begin to take a more holistic approach, we're going to continue to have problems. And I guess my mantra, and anybody who knows me, Nashville needs a comprehensive economic development strategy that we actually work on and hope that the state won't preempt, so that we're not always reacting. And once we do that, I think that'll help us quite a bit.
Thank you.
Are we done with me?
Are we done? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Public Library appointment of Dr. Nadine De La Rosa for a term expiring April 6th, 2028. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for being here.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Would you mind talking a little bit about your interest in the board and your background?
Sure. So I'm Nadine De La Rosa. The public libraries have been a part of my life since I was a very young girl, around 6 or 7 years old, in the inner cities of New York. I spent a lot of time in the libraries. It was a refuge given the neighborhood that I grew up in. There, I was able to use the internet for the very first time in the 90s and, leading up to the 2000s, because I did not have access, to internet. It is there where I was able to meet a number of different partners, across the city that I probably would have never met. It is there where I found belonging as an introverted young girl that did not enjoy being outside in the sense of playing sports. My family is a baseball family. Go Yankees. Wait, don't judge me on that yet. And then I came to Nashville in 2014 to work at Vanderbilt. I'm a higher education administrator, and here it was where I explored the public library, what it's like. I earned a doctorate in 2021. I spent about 4 years at Peabody at Vanderbilt, studying organizational leadership and learning. And it was the public library here where it came back full circle, where I made those, connections. And so the way in which the public library really benefit my life, and I know the power of it, I credit it oftentimes for me being a first-generation college student to now being a doctor. I want to be able to offer that to citizens here in Davidson County, and I want to be able to extend the work that has already been done. And so that's my interest.
Fantastic. Any questions? No. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you so much. So the Solid Waste Region Board appointment of Dr. Emily Jones for a term expiring December 15th, 2028. Hi, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
Great, thanks. Thanks for being here.
Great to be here.
Would you mind talking a little bit?
Yes, so I'm an educator. I teach environmental and sustainability sciences, and what we would call solid waste, or waste in general, is really an inroad for students' first interest in sustainability. It's often what students have first been turned on to in elementary school. And it's a curious problem because there are so many upstream sources and downstream effects, and what I really enjoy doing is getting students curious about what ends up in the trash, why that trash can and not in just different waste streams. And so this is definitely a departure from my academic training, but it's definitely something that I teach regularly and enjoy working on, and also recognizing the complexity of it. Is a constantly changing situation, and I've followed and kept in touch with colleagues in the sustainability world, solid waste division, et cetera, and I've participated on panels and things with them, and I've had them in class giving presentations and tours, and really this is just a very tangible way to make an impact on something that everyone in our city participates in, which is where our stuff comes from and then where it goes.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, all in favor?
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm clapping. I'm saying aye. I'm raising my hand.
Yeah.
All right, that is the end of our agenda. Thank you all very much. There are parking passes over there, and we'll see everyone next door.
Thank you.
For your time.
You're welcome. I grabbed one. Yeah.
We're doing the presentation now.